Hey, it's Future Nate. Just want to let you know that if you want to just get started with all the Ray Bradbury, skip to 8 minutes and about 7 seconds, give or take a little bit.
Okay, so this is my pitch to get Verizon to sponsor the podcast, because I've been a customer of theirs for a long time. I actually switched from Xfinity to Verizon in like 2014.
Oh
I've
my
been
God.
a customer for a long time.
That was before you even had a wife.
Oh yeah, it totally was. It was like my first apartment. I've just been taking this Verizon subscription with me forever. So I get a new apartment. I really like Verizon's gigabit internet. It's done pretty well by me. And Xfinity, I struggled with their consistency from time to time, especially on the upload speed, which is a problem if you're as terminally online as I am. And so, yeah, I am moving, and I'm moving in a week. And I said to Verizon 2 or 3 weeks back that I need to have internet at my new apartment on March 15th. I work from home. My wife is taking a class from home. I mean, it's Zoom, thing. And we need the internet that day. And they're like, okay, yep, technician's going to come out because there's not anything installed in that building. What is installed in that building already is Xfinity. That's a perk they put in with the new construction, is that Xfinity will put their little routers in there, and you just have to call them and have them turn it on, and you'll have internet, day you move in. And I was like, well, I'll give Verizon the chance to send a technician out. It's a little inconvenient compared to just pushing a button, I guess, but I know Xfinity. They suck worse. So that's what I thought at any rate. So Verizon, right? I'm just sitting at work, typing away, doing my programmings, and get an email. Verizon really happy to inform me that my installation date has changed. They will not be installing my internet on March 15th as I requested. They will, in fact, be installing it June 2nd.
Okay.
And
you didn't find that acceptable. You didn't find a 3-month change to be okay.
No. So I'm at work. I have to take a lot of calls. So I get on their chat with, you can chat with people on their website. And so I start chatting with the guy, and I'm like, hey, I really need to have internet the day I move into my apartment. You can't just push this out 90 days. And he's like, okay, yeah, we'll get that straightened out for you. And can you take a picture of your router for me? And I was like, well, I don't use a Verizon router. I use my own router. I don't need you to do anything with the router. And he's like, okay, but could you just take a picture of it for me? It'll make it easier for the install tech. And I was like, maybe. I'm kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so he sends me a link to take the picture, and the link just opens up another chat.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, look, I don't know why you need a picture of my router. I don't really want to do this anymore. So can we just disconnect the Verizon internet? I'm just going to I even told him to sort of, put the bug in him that I can get Comcast literally right now.
Ooh.
I can just go onto the Comcast website right now and turn it on. And he was like, okay, so you want to disconnect your service on 314? And I was like, yes. He's like, and you want to reconnect it on 315? And I was like, you know what? No. Let's just disconnect it. I think I'm going to go with this other company. And he's like, okay, let me transfer you. And they transfer me. And we'll skip the first 2 transfers because they were pretty uneventful. I basically just tell people this story again. And the 4th transfer is this lady who is like a professional breakup specialist. And she starts talking to me like I'm literally breaking up with her.
Oh no.
And it's like, well, I'd really hate to lose you as a customer. And I was like, well, I would really like to have the internet that I need for my job the day I need to have it. So we're at something of an impasse, And there's this other company that, made a deal with the construction people to just put their shit in, and so it's already there, and so I kind of have to at this point. You've convinced me that if I say yes, let's do it. You're promising me somebody's going to be there, and she's like, I can promise that. And I asked her, I was like, are you going to come out and do it? And she was like, no. I mean, so a technician has to come out and do it. And I was like, so you're going to push all the buttons to schedule an appointment for 3:15? And she's like, yes. And I was like, okay, but I already did that. And then they just moved it out 90 days. So I'm pretty sure if you do it, whatever caused it to move out 90 days is going to come up again, and it's just going to happen again. Because you see, I work in software. You know, I'm something of a maintenance guy myself. You know, I have dealt with issues where there were bugs.
Yeah, you're a computer guy, so you can computer all the computers.
Well, no, it's more like I'm used to lying to users. Like, I mean, I want to take that back. I don't lie to users, but I am used to there being a problem that does not have a good solution, and having to have that uncomfortable conversation. Like, I know the procedures state that she's supposed to tell me this, and this if I'm upset about this, and this, and she, you know, and I believe she will try her best to get somebody out there, but I don't believe she has the power to get someone out there. And I sympathize with that position. I've been in that position. So yeah, I was like, no, I think we're just going to cancel it. And I'm just going to, I actually told her, I have actually already, while I was being transferred around, like the first time I was transferred, I just went on Xfinity and signed up for it. Uh-huh. And the router's actually on in my apartment as we speak. So I don't need you anymore.
God damn.
And that was kind of a harsh thing to say to somebody you're breaking up with, but so then she just stopped talking to me.
Oh my God.
Me. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Did she hang up the call at least?
No. I mean, we were on their little text chat, and she just pretended she wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, this has been very weird. Thank you. And I guess I'll call.
This has been a very strange set of transfers that landed me at your desk, where you have now ghosted me. It's very weird.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I guess I haven't moved yet. So
you know, it says red next to the last message, right? You know, I know you're there. I know you're reading this.
Yeah, it was in so many ways. Like they hired somebody who was like, it was like breaking up with a high school girlfriend. So I'm going to call Verizon eventually. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm just going to call Verizon and have them cancel this. But then I think I'm smart, right? If I call them now and I tell them I already went with Xfinity and I want them to end my service, they're just going to end it right now, either out of malice or incompetence.
Or both.
Yeah, so now I need to wait. So I technically have 2 internet subscriptions right now.
Wow.
Anyway, this is Words About Books. I'm Ben, he's Nate, and today we're talking about Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, this one was voted on by our sexy, smart, strong, really fit patrons. If you want to be one or all of those things, you might consider going to patreon.com/WABpod. I'm not saying that WABpod, the Patreon, is some sort of miracle cure-all, but I'm also not saying it isn't. So
you can't prove that it isn't.
Exactly. So yeah, we're talking about Ray Bradbury, the greatest sci-fi author in history. Oh, fuck me, Ray Bradbury.
I was waiting for one of us to mention that. That'll be on the next bingo card. We got to establish, if you want to... you got to join our Words About Books Discord if you want to get in on this bingo that is rapidly becoming a thing.
Yeah. Apparently there's a new card every episode.
Yeah. We can do that. We can do a bingo card.
Yeah, why not? Who's going to stop us? I'll just go across the river into Missouri.
Not Kansas law, that's who.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we decided to do 2 short stories from the Illustrated Man because we were going to do one, but we found out it was
It was
pretty
like
short.
3 pages long. That's an exaggeration, but it might as well have been. The
Well, I think
patrons voted on 0 Hour by Ray Bradbury,
Yeah.
and then I read it in, I want to say, like 15 minutes on a plane ride, and I texted you and was like, we might consider another one as well.
So I decided, like, there, two things we can do. We can either really pad it with a story about bad customer service, or we can read another one that I like. Now, I thought we could do a full... Yeah, we decided on both. I thought we could do a whole episode on 0 Hour, but you mentioned that you thought it was a little too similar to
The Velt.
the Velt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like The Velt, but like not as good. Sorry,
Really?
Ray.
You didn't
I know you listen
0
to our
Hour.
podcast.
Let's do 0 Hour first then. So you didn't like 0 Hours.
I gave it an average score. I didn't dislike it, but I thought it was average.
So real quick, I guess we can go through the plot of 0
Aliens, Ben. Aliens from Venus, I think? Or Mercury.
No, they never say where they're from.
Oh, well, why not? This is the deep lore, okay? He really left me out, okay? So, 0 Hour is the story of a mother and a child. And the child, they have some imaginary friends that are going to take over the world and torture, murder all of the adults. But that would be really hard because we just got flying ships and all kinds of space defenses. And I guess the mother was raised during World War II times, which is really weird. Ray Bradbury thought we were going to advance a lot quicker than we did. But anyway, mother's like, ha, that's funny, dear. Go back to plotting the downfall of civilization. Ha ha ha. Wait a minute. She gets this creeping feeling that the magic yo-yo that disappears when you spin it, that actually is going to bring in the aliens. And she runs upstairs with her husband, who has like 3 lines. And they go into the attic, and they lock the attic when 0 Hour happens, which is 5 p.m., which is a weird time for it to happen, but whatever. And the aliens come in, they're banging on the door, and the child says, peekaboo, and that's it. We're done. So Ben, what'd you think of 0 Hour?
So I liked 0 Hour, I think, more than you did. I think it is...
Did Ray Bradbury want to kill his parents, or did his kids want to kill him? Or both?
Ray...
Because that's the kind of... I'm getting this theme here.
So I don't think so, but I do think that one of the themes Ray Bradbury often deals with is the disconnect between children and adults. That comes up in almost everything he does, and he does seem to see something...
I forgot about boys.
Yeah. Yeah. He does seem to see something magical about childhood. Like, it comes up...
Well, they're not, Ray. They're not magic, and it isn't magic.
Well, because one of the reasons... I'm sorry, I had to step away while you were giving your summary.
Yeah, I could hear you stepping away, you dick. That was gold, all right? I spent a lot of time and work on that.
Did you mention why the aliens targeted kids?
Because they got an imagination and they're dumb little idiots.
Yeah, because they can
Except
perceive...
for my daughter,
like,
she's a fucking genius. She can count now? Yeah, checkmate, Ben.
No one else can do that.
Yeah, I know.
Better be careful. I think they're teaching AI to count.
Yeah, but not as fast as my daughter.
As your daughter. Okay. I thought it was creepier than the Velt because the mother is more sympathetic. In this one, I don't think the parents did anything wrong.
Yeah, they did. One of them worked all day like a dick, and he was square. and the mom, she wasn't much of a character, Ben.
Well, but the difference between this and the Velt is the...
I like the Velt when they're like, oh my god, that's screaming. That sounds really familiar. Yeah, it's you. Your kids are fantasizing lions are eating you.
There's a different tone. The Velt is very much about the parents doing wrong, and 0 Hour is very much about the children doing wrong. Both of them have creepy kids, but
Yeah.
in the Velt, the victims are deserving of their punishment, and in
Are
Zero
they?
Hour, they are not.
Are they deserving of their punishment?
Yeah.
How so, Ben?
Well, I mean, perhaps not deserving of a death sentence, but they did transgress. They have not been good parents. And it is their bad parenting that ultimately led them to have psychopathic children who wanted to kill them.
Yeah, but that also means it made more sense. Whereas in Zero Hour, she's like, I promise the aliens won't torture you too bad, mommy. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, uh-huh.
Well, first off, she didn't promise that.
She did promise something like that.
But I think Zero Hour is probably not his strongest short story. I think, if I'm remembering right, Zero Hour was written especially for the Illustrated Man publication of the Illustrated Man collection of short stories. So I don't think this one was, I don't know if it was written especially for the Illustrated Man, but I think it was first published in the Illustrated Man. So I don't know if it was to kind of fill out the page count a little bit, or if this was just a story that existed that he didn't sell.
How can you ever forget or forgive those over and above you? Those tall and silly dictators. He said like the same stuff in the Velt, Ben.
I think it's an interesting one. It's an interesting comparison between Zero Hour and the Velt. It is a little derivative, I guess.
The Velt was better. Like every way.
The Velt is better. Yes. 100%. I don't disagree with you on that.
Because you know something's really wrong in the Velt. But it has time to breathe.
Yeah.
And you know, you the reader are thinking, that's you screaming, right? Like, you're the one being eaten by those lions. And if you go inside that room again, you're gonna be eaten by lions. They're like, it's a little too real. It's a little too real. It's like, yeah, it's fucking terrifying. Zero Hour is like, aliens are gonna kill us all at 5 p.m.
Zero Hour is a little more cartoonish.
What will those wacky aliens do next?
I don't think it's one of the more cerebral Ray Bradbury stories. I'll say that.
Who's coming in my house? Demanded Henry angrily. Who's trampling around down there? My note just says, shut the fuck up, Henry.
Yeah. Henry was a little... I suppose maybe there was something he did to deserve it.
Yeah, it's like, Henry, we're in the attic for a reason. Shut the fuck up. Did you not see the otherworldly glow? Now, Ben...
Did you not see the otherworldly glow? I don't know why that gets me. It's just the way you say it. Like you have no sense of wonder.
Yeah.
Did you not see the otherworldly glow? It's the 5th one this week. We gotta watch out, Henry.
Also, again, weird that the parents grew up in 48.
No, Ray Bradbury definitely did think we were going to go straight into space and just never stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops-a-doodle. And that's why I said it's a theme in sci-fi that I love. Is you see it in the old sci-fi versus the new sci-fi of like, there's a very optimistic bent in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then it gets kind of pessimistic.
Then we didn't colonize the moon right after we landed on it, and
Yeah, and then there's this weird like Gen X sci-fi where
Gen X, am I right?
Everything is like, I don't know, to go with their defining characteristic, it's grungy.
Oh, I thought their defining characteristic was that no one cares about them.
Like, space is run by a bunch of sellouts, man, and it all sucks, but it's the future. See, I don't know. I am always interested in sci-fi that explores the evolution of human society, and it's so very quaint to go back to Ray Bradbury and think that there would still just be like stay-at-home moms using
stay-at-home
robot
mom,
butlers.
dad working a 9 to 5. We've got a world peace. It sounds like because of all the men working in their manly jobs. There's what did he say? Hold on.
He said that world peace was achieved by every country having the exact same number of nuclear weapons.
There were no traitors among men, no unhappy ones, no disgruntled ones. Therefore, the world was... Hold on.
I think you need to go a little further back.
Based
to where
upon a stable ground. Yeah, the perfect weapons were held in equal trust by all the nations.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. All right. I disagree, but okay.
I don't know. I think, genuinely, if everybody knew everybody else could kill each other, we would live in a state of constant anxiety, but perhaps a stable one.
Yeah, no, because then eventually someone's going to be like, you know what? I bet I could survive. I'm going to hit the button.
Yeah, I suppose that does assume everybody is not insane.
Yeah. Yeah, Ray Bradbury makes that assumption. So yeah, 0 Hour. Do you believe, Ben? I went on Goodreads, a site full of trustworthy opinions and reviews. Is this a Ray Bradbury story about keeping an eye on what your children do and what they play, as if you're a parent living in Grand Theft Auto 4 times?
What?
Or Vice City. Yeah! This is a lot of reviews were like, this is a chilling story about how we have to monitor what our children are playing and what they're doing. I'm like, is it? I don't think that was his intent. I think that may be a byproduct.
Okay, the moral of the story, in my eyes,
is that eat your kids if they're creepy little shits.
The moral of the story, in my eyes, is that you should take an interest in what your children are doing.
Absolutely not.
They
just should be interested in what I'm doing.
Yeah, she just constantly assumes that even though the child is saying creepier and creepier things, and the child is obviously asking about stuff way beyond their understanding, like she's talking about...
What's the fifth column, mommy?
She's talking about the fifth column. She's talking about four-dimensional space. And she's talking about people specifically trying to subvert Earth's defense systems. And she's like, oh, those wacky kids. And it's like, well, maybe you should see what's going on with that. Like, if your kid comes home and tells you, like, yeah, Jimmy has a gun in his backpack. Like, maybe...
That wacky Jimmy. It's his Second Amendment right, Ben.
Yeah. No law of Kansas will stop Jimmy. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that, I mean, that's a very extreme example, not to make light of school violence, but yeah, that sort of stuff does happen. Like, kids can sometimes not realize the situation is very dangerous. And
yeah, I feel like this kid maybe didn't realize what was involved in alien fourth dimension torturing.
I'll put it this way. I think you should know if your child is playing Grand Theft Auto.
How many people are they beating to death before they get in the car and start running people over on the sidewalk?
Like, I wouldn't let my kid play Grand Theft Auto, but I don't think this is about not letting your kid play dangerous games.
Well, yeah, because they didn't exist, because we went right into space and we just never stopped. So we're too busy exploring space to have video games.
This is definitely about knowing what your kids are doing, who they're doing it with, and being involved enough in their lives to sense if they are doing something dangerous. I think Ray Bradbury definitely often returns to the theme of parental responsibility being abdicated to the detriment of the parent. Like, all of these are morality tales that say if you don't pay attention to your children will kill you.
Yeah, but that didn't happen to my granddad. Though he may have been killed by his wife. We don't know. We don't have any proof, but it's okay. You can't prosecute her. She's dead. So.
Well, okay. So these are final thoughts on Zero Hour by Ray Bradbury, and perhaps the suspicious circumstances under which Nate's grandfather died.
I mean, he's already on hospice. He was going to go eventually, so.
Well, we're all going to go eventually.
He was unconscious for the last night I saw him, so I'm just saying.
Was she like looking at him and rubbing her hands together? Like
No, but after I left, the dispensing of the Ativan and the morphine was left to her. And it has been theorized, but never confirmed in any way by her children, that maybe she accidentally overdosed him. Who knows?
I really thought you were going to like bait and switch me and set up the Ativan and then be like, and then she smothered him with a pillow.
After all the shit that he put her through, yeah, you know what? I would have just been like, all right, we're gonna take this pillow, we're gonna put it back on the bed, you're gonna go to sleep, and in a few hours you'll wake up and you'll call 911 in a panic, even though it says not to do that on your fridge, and we'll just.
It says not to call 911 in a panic?
It says don't call 911 because he's a DNR. He's gonna die. If he stops breathing or his heart stops, that's expected. Just let him die.
Okay, what's the non-emergency number for a corpse?
I don't fucking know. You call the hospice number. It's on the form that says stop. Don't call 911. Call us. We'll come by. We'll get our delicious drugs that you definitely did not give too much of to him. We won't tell, lady. And we'll collect the body. Bada bing, bada boom. Realest guy in the room.
I really learned more than I bargained for today.
So yeah, know what your kids are up to and what your grandparents are up to. You never know.
Maybe you don't want to know what your grandparents are up to. maybe snitches get stitches, Nate.
Like I said, she already passed away, so you can't do anything to her.
Ay, Dios mío. Okay.
Now we're going on to the rain, the long rain. Is that what it was?
Yes, it's the long rain.
All right. So the rain continued. It was a hard rain, a perpetual rain, a sweating and steaming rain. It was a mizzle, a downpour, a fountain, a whipping at the eyes, an undertow at the ankles. It was rain to drown all rains and the memory of rains. Ben, what are we doing?
So I know a little bit about this story. Namely,
I would hope
probably...
so. I would hope that you read it and you know everything about it now.
I mean, the backstory.
The backstory is that he looked up at Venus and was like, what if raining?
So did you know that was the scientific consensus at the time?
I actually did look up on Wikipedia, where all college papers come from.
Well, they all come from ChatGPT now.
I didn't know it was a scientific consensus, but I did know that it was one of the thoughts, and that sci-fi writers would often just kind of like make up conditions for how Venus is. It's hot, guys.
Yeah.
It's really, really fucking hot, and we would die if we went there.
We know that now.
We should have known it back then, I feel like. Someone shouldn't have looked up at Venus and went, I bet I could live on that.
They knew it was hot, but there are a lot of reasons they thought Venus would be that way. And actually, Carl Sagan was one of the first people to think it wouldn't be that way.
Ooh, Carl Sagan, that's a name I recognize.
Yep. And
what does Neil deGrasse Tyson say?
Who the hell cares? Probably that it was not accurate. Did you know it doesn't rain on Venus? Thanks, Neil. Keep those zingers coming, you smart man. All right. But, yeah... the Soviets did a bunch of probes, and then they found out it's actually like the worst place in the solar system, except the sun. So
Yeah, it's actually hotter than Mercury.
yeah, yeah, and that's what's going to happen when global warming takes over. So
Yeah, it is
Your
mostly
move,
carbon dioxide,
Republicans.
isn't it?
yeah, it's a runaway greenhouse effect on Venus that traps like nothing. None of the heat gets out of Venus, so it just cooks, and it's super pressurized. And needless to say, it does not rain. It does rain, but it rains like iron.
Death? Yeah,
So
I was going to say, it rains some sort of poisonous heavy metal
Yeah.
upon us.
yeah. But I think even that evaporates before it gets to the surface. Read about Venus. It's really neat.
Honestly, that would be better than having it, fall on you.
Yeah, kind of. It's relative at that point, I guess. But anyway, so that's one interesting fact, that they thought this was like a good approximation of what Venus might actually be like. And he mentions that there's native Venusians
Yeah,
and
living in the ocean.
all that stuff. When this was later published, this has been adapted a bunch of times into like movies and shit. Not movies, but like episodes of Twilight Zone and like Ray Bradbury shows. And they changed the name in a couple of them. They changed the name of the
Probably a
planet.
smart idea.
Well, yeah, once they figured out that Venus was not a wet world by any stretch.
Yeah, apparently the evaporation of all the surface water. Oh dear. All right.
Just reading about Venus.
Yeah, I am. Shit.
Yeah, Venus sucks. But we're not here to talk about Venus. We're here.
We're kind
we
of
are
here to talk about Venus.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about fantasy Venus. So they
We're
changed
here
the
to talk
name in
about-
some of.
Yeah, how Venus was imagined. It was imagined in Ray Bradbury's story as a world where it never stops raining. And
Could you
there is
imagine back then they thought they had at least one other potentially habitable planet in the solar
yeah, it's
system?
just a matter of firing out a rocket and getting there, right?
Yeah.
And they really thought like, oh yeah, there might just be other people hanging out there. It's just like right next door. But I guess that's like the change in perspective is like, you wouldn't have thought of it as right next door, would you? You would have thought of it as like,
They're plant number 2, we're plant
impossibly
number
far.
3.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not too far at all.
Yeah,
Like
but now
us
Elon
to
Musk.
Jupiter, I mean, whew, that's 3 and 5. That's a whole other tier. And whew.
Now Elon Musk has us all convinced we're going to Mars like next year. So
Yeah, can
That'd be
you
good.
imagine if you thought that Mars was habitable? I can't.
I can imagine people living on Mars. I can't imagine people being on Mars by 2027 or whatever he quoted. But we'll
that
see.
what he-
I could be
is
proven.
that
I'll
what
be
he-
happy to be proven wrong.
Is that what he thought? 2027?
I don't know.
Elon,
I feel like
I will bet you what's his net worth? Elon, I'll bet you $1 billion that doesn't happen.
I was gonna say I'll bet you Twitter, but I don't want it. I can't take on that kind of debt right now. Oh god. Okay, so plot of this one is that a bunch of guys from Earth take a rocket over to Venus, and they do not make it to their destination. They crash in the jungles of Venus, where it always rains, and the jungle is like, they don't even know if it's plants. It's definitely, there's definitely some kind of like fungus that rapidly accumulates on everything.
Yeah, it's a great place.
And to make it somewhat habitable, they have built sun domes on Venus, which shield you from the rain and have a kind of like artificial light source that functions as a sun.
And it's a heating source as well. That's important because Venus is not hot as hell, literal hell, as in reality.
Yeah. It's not super cold outside the domes. You can live outside the domes. The air is breathable and the water is water. So you could kind of survive. I have a few thoughts about this story from like a practicality thing. But This is actually probably one of my favorite Ray Bradbury stories
Oh my god.
because it's kind of a horror story.
Kind of. Yeah.
kind of.
These people are in literal hell, basically.
So it's just raining on these guys.
It's
And
raining so much that the color of their skin, eyes, and clothes is just white now. It has washed all of the color away from them. And I assume that the rain is water and not like sulfuric acid, so that's really concerning.
Well, I think it's milky or something. It might be like very basic water.
Venus is a very basic planet.
But yeah, so these guys are walking through the jungle. They're trying to get to the next sun dome. And the rain, the way he describes the rain, in my opinion, is so good. Really, not a lot happens in this story except these guys walking in the rain.
There are 4 guys, and at the end there's 1 guy. The end.
But he constantly makes you dread every minute because the rain, the constant pounding on their heads of rain, it's like numbing them. It's not enough to like give them frostbite or chill them or anything. It's just the worst kind of discomfort. And he just keeps ratcheting it up. And as you read it, you can really put yourself in that position of how bad it would feel to just be marching for days and days and days with nothing but rain just pounding on your head. And you can't sleep because you have no tent because you didn't expect to be hiking through a jungle. Now what you do have is a boat. And they do inflate the boat and go across rivers and stuff. And I kind of wondered why they didn't like use the boat like a tent.
Because it would just
prop it up against.
Wash through the boat, Ben. The
Yeah,
rain
but then
would just wash the boat away.
You could tie. One guy could hold the boat. I mean, like I'd happily hold the boat above my head if it's that bad. Point is, I started thinking of ways you could beat the rain, but like these guys are like cold, they're hungry, they're not thirsty, but they're everything else, and they go to try to find one of these sun domes, and they do find one. And it's destroyed. Turns out there's an alien species called the Venusians who live in the oceans of Venus and come up and occasionally smash the sun domes because they didn't consent to the Earthlings coming here and building them.
Yeah, and I didn't consent to your planet being so uninhabitable. Dicks. Maybe next time you'll keep my comfort in mind.
And that was the story of how Nate was drowned by Venusians.
Yeah, apparently they drown you in a way where it takes days.
Yeah. They waterboard you.
Yeah. Yeah, aren't you being constantly waterboarded on the surface? There's a guy who's just like, I'm done, and he opens his mouth, and he looks up, and he's trying to drown from the rain, so a guy shoots him in the head. As a mercy kill.
Let's do the deaths in order. So the first death is they're trying to go south or north. They're using their compass to navigate.
Yes.
And there is a giant electrical storm that they're not aware of that is causing their compass to point back around the other way. They wind up walking for days in this hell and coming right back to where they started. And that's when the first guy cracks. So there's this giant thunderstorm
that he describes almost like a monster of sorts.
Yeah, like a living being with 100 legs. And it's just traveling across, and they're like, get down as low as you can. Hopefully the lightning will all hit the rocket we came in on, and it'll disperse before it gets to us.
Which is not the accepted advice for what to do in a lightning storm. Now they're like, actually, that will do more damage if you flatten yourself on the ground.
I will admit, as I was reading this, I was a little skeptical of how much you gain by being smaller by a few feet. because when this guy jumps up and he runs away, he gets hit by lightning real quick. And nobody else gets touched. And it's like, I don't know. I still think even if there's hundreds of lightning bolts, even if it's a storm that big, it's certainly very dangerous to be out. But it's crazy that that much lightning is around them, and only the guy who stood up got hit. But he goes crazy, and he tries to run away when the smarter thing to do would be to lay down, and he pays for it. And they go over to him, and he's like burned into a skeleton of leathery, mummified skin, and already the fungus has started to grow on him. And so he's dead. Then they get to that first dome. They see that it's broken. And it's not too long after that that the next guy cracks. And that's when he wanders off. And he just looks up at the sky, opens his mouth, and starts trying to drown himself in the rain. And that is what makes it a horror story. Because that is terrifying. If you saw somebody doing that, that would stick with you.
Yeah, that's why they didn't see him do that. They shot him in the head.
Yeah, and then the one guy shoots that dude in the head, and the lieutenant is like, "But you shot him." And he's like, he was going to stand there with his mouth open and drown. And the lieutenant's like, "Yeah, that's pretty fucked up." They just keep moving.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say he almost pulls a James Holden for a moment. I can't believe he did that.
I was afraid of that, but they did a really good job of him being like, he's in shock that happened, but he's not crazy. Like, he understands that guy was not coming back. And so they move on. And then the next guy, the man with the gun, he starts losing it. He like loses his ability to hear. And I've read this story a couple of times, and I've never known if when he loses his ability to hear, if that was like biological or psychological. So you're the doctor. Maybe you can help me. Is there anything about his situation that would affect his hearing?
You mean if rain just constantly poured into your ears nonstop?
Well, is it though? I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So he's got the swimmer's ear.
Can you imagine? That sounds awful.
With my ears and this fungus that they're talking about, like,
give me that gun.
I'd be dead. Yeah. Yeah. So he loses his ability to hear, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't do it anymore. I'm gonna sit on this rock. I'm gonna let you go on." And he's like, "No, you gotta come with me." And he's like, "I can't hear you." He's like, "You gotta come with me though. You can't just die here." Blah, 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 blah. He's like, I cannot hear you. I could not be more clear about that. I literally can't hear what you're saying. I saw that you said my name. I can read that on your lips, but I don't know why you're talking to me when I just told you I can't hear you. So you go walk away with your little feet, and then when you're out of sight, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. He's like, "I'm not crazy yet, but I'm going to be." So this guy is just like the most... He's very calm considering his situation. He's like, well, he's literally that guy that's like, well, guess I'll die.
I lost 75% of my squad, but...
So then it's just the lieutenant. And he goes, and you really don't know if he's going to make it. I didn't think he was going to make it myself, but he does.
I don't know if he does, Ben.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. He might be insane at the end.
That's possible. I wondered that myself, but I think I'm on team he made it.
Someone connected this to, like, PTSD.
I would say there's definitely elements of that.
Yeah, he makes it to a sun hut and...
A sun dome.
Yeah. I was like, sun hut sounds like a place you get, like, shitty sandals and sunglasses. Cheap-ass sunglasses. So... he goes to a sun dome, and there's hot chocolate, and there's no rain. It's warm, and there's a fresh uniform there, and people are greeting him, and they're walking towards him the end. And I was like, yeah, well...
it's a little too perfect.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I was thinking the whole time, like, are they actually just in hell? And at the end, I was thinking, did he imagine that?
Yeah, is he actually laying there dying as the fungus takes him
Yeah,
with his mouth open?
is his mouth
Yeah.
open? Is he drowning? And he's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, Sundome."
I can't believe I'm on this side of it, but I think he actually made it.
Oh my god.
Do you really think he was imagining it?
I don't know, Ben. I would say
I could see it.
60-40 that he wasn't imagining it.
I could definitely see it as he's crazy, but I do think he made it. And I will say I'm kind of using like inside baseball. I'm going to have a creaky chair all through this dialogue. I'm kind of using my metagaming here. I think that's a little dark for Ray Bradbury. I don't know that he does those kind of fake
that's
outs.
right because there's not a child involved in this, so
Well, even then, Ray Bradbury doesn't usually. Well, I guess in the Velt he kind of did. He kind of did really go in on it. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're talking me around. I really could be convinced it went either way. I don't know. Now, I assume it was after you read this story that you messaged me and you were like, so Ray Bradbury just doesn't like to end his stories.
yeah.
So were you unsatisfied with this?
Yes, but not as unsatisfied, not anywhere near as unsatisfied as I was with the ending of 0 Hour.
Okay. So what more did you want from the story?
I wanted these people in the Sundome to confirm he was not a crazy person, or to confirm that he was.
Okay, so you don't like having the question mark.
Yeah, I'm sure some people do. Good for you. And I've liked ambiguity in other works. This is one where it's like, motherfucker. Yeah, is this guy insane or not?
I kind of like the question mark because I think the whole thing was it's really down to his description of the rain. And I cannot remember where I heard this. I heard somebody somewhere once compare it to life in a trench in World War One.
Yeah, more PTSD.
Where it was just constant, and like the lightning storm was kind of reminding them of the explosions and the constant shelling, and it just rained all the time and you were never dry. You were constantly covered in muck, and there were things like not the fungal stuff, but the disease. And if somebody died, like very quickly it turned in that environment because there's bacteria everywhere. And he just really captures that element of dread where I really like when it's something so simple like that. It's just rain. They're just in the rain for too long.
Yeah,
and he takes
baby.
that simple.
I've taken a shower before. I've never lost my sanity once.
Well, like I know what it's like to walk in the rain, but then you imagine that it's like, yeah, what if that was just for days? You never get under a tree. You never go into a house. It's just constantly the sound of rain, the feeling of rain on your head. They don't even have helmets. They don't even have hats. They do have a big inflatable boat that they never use as anything other than a boat, but you could easily have used it as you could just put it on top of you. But even then, the ground is like not ground. Everything is like a puddle. Everything is flooded.
Yeah.
And it's never going to stop.
Yeah.
But then at the end, they should have had like a tent commercial or like some kind of prepper kit.
Introducing Dream Tents. All kids love tents, and now they can have their very own tent every night when they go to bed.
Like if you're taking a rocket to Venus, remember. I even like the way he describes the plants. Like if you take them off the quote unquote trees, you try to pull the leaves off or anything that gets pulled out of the ground of Venus, it just rots immediately. We're like within minutes. It crumbles to nothing. So they can't even work with the environment. It's just constantly soggy. And it's so much worse than something that is more instantly deadly because it just wears away at you. And he really captured that. He really captured that feeling of just being slowly worn away until you're insane. And I don't know why I like that. I find it cathartic for some reason. I don't know if that's like an anxiety thing or what. It's nice to have somebody put it into words, you know?
Yeah. Ray Bradbury. Greatest sci-fi author in history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he listens to our podcast.
His Halloween tree. You think Ray Bradbury listens to our podcast?
Yeah. I bet he does.
You know you do know he's dead. He didn't die that long ago, but I mean relatively. I guess I'm old now.
When did he pass away?
I want to say in the 2000s.
Wow. Yeah, you are old, man.
You have your Wikipedia up. You tell me.
Oh, God, I don't have it up. Ray Bradbury. 2012.
Yeah. I was going to say, I remember hearing about his death.
Age 91.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, and then remember, everyone in every one of his stories was smoking all the time. That's good genes.
He could have made it to 112.
Did you see Dick Van Dyke can still dance? He's 97. I mean, he doesn't dance like.
I'm gonna be real, Ben. I thought he was dead, so I did not know he could still dance.
He's alive. He's dancing. He looks for 97. He looks fucking amazing. I'm cheering for Dick Van Dyke to go to 100. I don't want to jinx it. I think he can do it.
Hey, there are guys on Twitter who didn't know how years worked, and they were like, "Hey, Betty White made it because if you just add in all the leap years that we skipped all those days on."
What?
Yeah, I think they thought that you skip days when you're not doing a leap year. Or no, it was because that extra pesky day, the 29th. If it would have just gone from the 28th to the 1st, like every other year does, besides the leap year, she would have made it to 100 because that's like however many days that she had left. And then people had to explain that the leap year isn't some magical year or magical day. Like that's already accounted for.
Oh, leap year is when
a year is 365 and 1/4 days.
Right, but a leap year is when Leap Year William comes out of the Marianas Trench.
Okay, sure.
And did nobody else watch 30 Rock? Come on.
I watched all of 30 Rock. I don't remember that, Ben.
You don't remember Leap Day Williams?
No, why would I?
Because it's one of my favorite bits.
I
recommend just getting the Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury and reading it. I think they're all good.
All right, I'm going to end this
even
episode.
If 0 hours.
I'm going to end this episode the way I perceived he ended the stories, Ben. What are your final thoughts?
Do you want me to give my final
thoughts? No, I'm just cutting. And then I'll put... Oh, yeah, we also have Patreon shout-outs. We've got...
I don't know why that got me. I'm sorry. Oh, God, I'm cackling like you.
Good. I finally got to
man.
you. I finally got you.
It's just the way you don't give a shit. it's By the way, we have Patreon shout-outs. Back to the shit that makes me money. We do have Patreon shout-outs. We got Spooky Shy. We got Brad, a.k.a. Isekai Sensei Sama of Anime Podcaster Reincarnation.com. We have Jamie of If You Want the Gravy blog where he reviews Mountain Dew and film. Jamie did inform me that, in fact, the Oscars is the one where Will Smith slapped a guy. I had forgotten which awards show that was.
I remember which one. It's not the year because I don't care.
I didn't remember the year, but I did ask him if Dune won an Oscar, and apparently it won several. So, Oscars relevant, question mark?
No.
But maybe?
No. It's not relevant
When-
until we win.
When anyone in the Academy can name a single award in my industry, I'll care about
potties.
your industry. What? The potties? The podskers. There's got to be podcaster awards. I feel like we should probably know about podcaster awards. We should probably know about book awards.
I give out the only ones worth having for both.
I think your award is every bit as important as an Oscar.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, we also have a Twitter at WABpod, blog at blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja, Instagram at Words About Books Podcast. We have a Discord. The Discord link is on the Twitter. Don't know where else to put it. Maybe on the blog. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, that sounds like my experience with Nebraska Furniture Mart, Ben. I don't know if I told you that.
I've never heard of this.
We ordered a bunch of baby furniture ahead of having our babies. This was a few years ago. And they got there with a box that was supposed to be a dresser drawer for her. And they fucked up and they're like, oh, you don't have all the right parts for the crib, which wasn't true. I think the guy was just lazy because 2 other guys came out the following weekends with different parts, and then they're like, wait, hold on. Here are the parts you have right here. Look at that. They're exactly what we need. That guy was an idiot. But that's not the big kicker, Ben.
What's the
big kicker is they put together something, and then we were like, hey, you going to put the drawers together? And they're like, oh, no, we don't do that in the field.
Field? Get out of here.
But we paid for it. Like, we paid for it to be assembled, not a bunch of parts inside of a box. And they're like, okay, well, I'll have you call the manager. I'm like, oh, God, fuck. So we call the manager, and they're like, yeah, we can send out some guys, and they'll pick up the dresser, they'll take it back to the factory or the warehouse. Probably the warehouse, that's probably the word he used. And they'll assemble it there, and then we can schedule you a delivery in June. It was June, again! Baby's due beginning of May. Actually, it was July, so it was a 2-month layover.
Oh, man.
And we were like, yeah, so these are baby dresser drawers, and we kind of wanted to use them for our baby's clothing, who's going to be here ahead of July. And they're like, well, we don't have any deliveries scheduled out that way until July. Like, we could do a special delivery. I mean, but we're not sure. It's like, you should do a special delivery because you fucked up. And I ended up, someone did say, yeah, we'll have someone come out and we'll get you a delivery. And then another guy, like immediately after I hung up with that guy, another guy called my wife and was like, yeah, we're going to have a guy come out and they're going to deliver the dressers in July. And so my wife is crying at this point. She's on pregnancy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's in the 3rd trimester.
Yeah.
She's got pregnancy hormones. She's really upset. And so I start talking to him. I'm like, what are you talking about? I literally just got off the phone with a guy who said, you're going to make a special delivery. And that guy was like, oh, well, let me talk to my other supervisor. And here's his name and number. But, like, it's already past 6 o'clock right now. And so I don't know. I'm like, he's not here right now. So I called this asshole the next day. And I explained the situation. And I don't remember exactly how the conversation went. But I eventually said, you know what? Just fucking cancel everything. Give us a refund, you dick. And we're just going to do it ourselves, because if you send a guy out here, I'm never seeing that dresser again. That dresser's going to be gone.
I was going to say, so this is the story of how you learned how to build a dresser?
Yeah, we built the dresser ourselves, and then I took this story and I gave them a 1-star review, and a customer service rep called me, and I was like, I laid it all out again, and told them to go fuck themselves. They gave me $100 in credit that I never used. I never went back to that store again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's my thing with Verizon. It's like, I literally do work from home. I've got like
Yeah,
podcast
as
interviews
most people
scheduled,
do.
and I've got like all this stuff set up that like everybody's been talking to me. Like all the people I podcast with, like you and Brad and everybody, are like, Ben, are you sure you're going to be good for this move? And I was like, no, I got it all figured out. And I hired movers. I've got all the stuff I need to move going over. It's looking great. And then Verizon's just like, hey, by the way, found a way to screw it up. And this is after they screwed up my previous move.
Oh, nice.
I was going to rent a router from them because I was too lazy to buy one myself. And they sent it to the wrong state. They sent it to Maryland.
It wasn't just the wrong address, it was the wrong state.
They literally sent it to Maryland, and I was like, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half to pick up a router. I'll just go buy a router. And I did. And I was like, can I just use my own router? And they're like, no, it won't work. And I was like, And, I'm a programmer, but I'm not a hardware guy. So like, I don't really know, but it doesn't sound right to me. And so I just went out and I bought a router and I plugged it in and it just worked.
Who would have thought it worked exactly as planned?
Yeah. So I called him and I was like, you can just cancel that. You could send it back to wherever it's supposed to go, or you can shove it up your ass. I don't care. And, I was like, one more shot for Verizon. Because the thing that sucks is Verizon does have the best internet, and this is America where you can have two internets. It's Verizon or Xfinity. And the Fios is better, where I live at any rate.
I have AT&T, so...
yeah. AT&T, I don't think they do internet out where I am.
That's weird. They got us, I think the day we moved in. And we didn't have a phone jack, which I thought was really weird.
Is it new construction?
No, this house is old as shit, dude.
That's strange.
Yeah, I was like looking around for one. I was like, shit, I don't think we have one. But they installed one, and they got the internet to work with the oldest shit wiring in this neighborhood, and it was great.
So you're not on fiber?
They upgraded it to fiber a little later on.
Oh, okay.
Like while we've been here, they buried a fiber line. So
yeah, AT&T doesn't.
It'd be nice when you get that
you
sweet Google fiber, but that's in Kansas City, Ben.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pittsburgh applied for fiber as well. We didn't get it.
Kansas City has it, Ben.
I could potentially see Kansas City.
Yeah,
I could potentially see my way to Kansas City.
And
I
if you're
almost
in
moved
Kansas
there.
City, Ben, you just go across the state line. You're in a state that has recreational weed legalized. Kansas laws can't stop you because you're in a different state.
Kansas laws can't stop you. I feel like that's Kansas's motto. Unless you're trying to teach evolution.
Oh yeah, don't we finally got around to doing that a few decades late, but we got around to it.
I was gonna say something about abortion, but you guys actually saved the day on that one.
Yeah, we did. We did overwhelmingly, and some assholes decided they were going to pay for a hand recount, and I think the margin went up, not down. So sucks to suck, guys, idiots. All right, now don't close out of Discord because that's where we're talking, Ben.
But I also accidentally started recording this one 45 seconds into the track.
Jesus Christ. All right, hold on. Let me go beat a cat.
Did Nate and Ben die in the rains of Venus? Find out next time on Words About Books.